people talk about being woke. You know what I mean by that? Like where people say, "Hey, I'm awake. I can see through and past things. I know what's going on behind the scenes and underneath the surface. I'm woke." And you've probably heard that recently on TV and in the news in regards to racism and prejudice. Uh, a lot of times, the liberal social media will criticize and will condemn people that hold on to traditional Judeo-Christian biblical values and worldview, who condemns the LGBTQ plus movement, those who believe that we should have closed borders, those that believe that the immigrants coming in should be properly vetted before being allowed to apply for citizenship and come in. And people say, well, that's bigoted and that's racist and, that's archaic and old-fashioned and obsolete thinking. We're woke. We're enlightened. We believe in ecumenicalism and unity and blah, 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 blah. It's just this liberal agenda. You also have people who are not eco-alarmists. I mean, they don't believe in that, oh, we only got 10 years left before the end of the world because we're going to go past the point of no return because of our environment. And they're using children with the gun movement and with the environmentalist movement, the anti-gun movement and the global warming alarmist movement. They've resorted to using kids to tug on our heartstrings. Kids to scare us into having all of our guns taken away and scare us into having the government take away all our rights so they can dictate what we can and can't do environmentally. These are the people that think that they are woke. And they think the ones that have Judeo-Christian values, biblical worldview and biblical values are the ones that are asleep. A lot of times you'll hear somebody talk about being woke, and you think of some kind of like person that's into New Age and sitting in a lotus position with their hands out and touching their fingertips and chanting some mantra that they are enlightened, that they are woke. Man, these people are deceived. These people are in deep sleep. I mean, they are in a spiritual REM sleep. They are in a make-believe fantasy dream world that's swallowing hook, line, and sinker the liberal, progressive, socialistic, globalistic, communistic, new age propaganda, hook, line, and sinker. So who do I think is woke? Well, I think somebody's woke when they understand and realize they cannot trust the governments of this world. They cannot put their sole trust in the governments of this world to bring us salvation, to bring us safety, to bring us peace. I consider somebody woke who doesn't put anything past humanity. A lot of times you'll hear conspiracy theories and people say, oh, well, no, that'll never happen. Our government would never do that, or people would never do that. The Bible tells me that we are depraved, that we are fallen, and that we can't even trust our own hearts, according to the prophet Jeremiah. So I put nothing past. If the human mind can imagine it, the human spirit will do it. That's who I consider woke. I consider somebody who looks at Hollywood and looks at the entertainment industry and looks at social media and understands and realizes that it is a propaganda tool and machine by the deep state, by the shadow government, by the powers that be, by the spiritual forces in heavenly places, because we battle not against flesh and blood, according to Ephesians. And that no matter what it is, whether it's a song, whether it's a movie, whether it's a sitcom, that there is an agenda, that there's something that's being taught, that there's something that they're trying to desensitize us to, something that they're trying to make us embrace. And the more times we hear it, the louder that it's being proclaimed, and the more often that we see it, the more we get desensitized to it, the more we accept it and normalize it and not question it. And through Hollywood and television, they're pushing the LGBTQ agenda. They're pushing the globalist agenda, the socialistic, the communistic agenda. They're pushing the New Age agenda. They're pushing everything that is anti-God and anti-biblical. They're pushing the agenda that, possibly we have been, that our creators are some alien brothers and sisters from another world that seeded this planet. That's who I consider to be woke, is people who sit down and don't check their brains in at the door when they're watching a TV show or when they're watching a movie or when they're listening to a song. Because really, look at the lyrics, look at the storyline, look at the themes that continue cropping up over and over and over. And a lot of these shows are trying to prepare us for full disclosure when it comes to the alien agenda, to accept space brothers and sisters when they reveal themselves and when they come, to get us to believe that the supernatural and the paranormal, it really doesn't have anything to do with God or the God of the Bible, but it's just something else, and that New Age has the answers. For people who can see through the politics and see that there's strings and a puppet master connected to politics, these are the people that I consider are truly woke. I mean, man, when I was younger and I would hear some of these really old, decrepit, gray-haired preachers talk about, the stuff that I'm talking to you about now, I'd say, oh man, these guys are crazy. They've gone too far. They're off their rocker. They're off the deep end. They're reading way too much into something, or, they just don't get it. I may not be old and decrepit, but man, I'm in their shoes now. I can see and understand where they're coming from. They were more woke than I gave them credit for. They were more woke than the vast majority of the population today. Being woke is seeing the propaganda machine behind social media and behind the politics and behind the entertainment industry, and being disgusted with it, because seeing it as, drinking the Kool-Aid, man, at, or the compound at Waco, all this kind of crazy stuff, that's pretty much what it is. And to stay away from it, or at least if you partake in it, you're partaking in it with your eyes open and with the full knowledge of what's the message being pushed behind it. We've always heard growing up that viewer discretion is advised, or parental guidance is advised when you're watching this. You should never allow your kids to watch stuff by themselves, because it's so important to turn the TV off after the show and say, hey, what did you learn, or what did you get from the show, or what do you think the show is trying to teach? What do you think the show is, the purpose or the thrust behind it is? And then there's a teachable moment to inject the biblical Judeo-Christian world values to counteract what they're being fed. Because again, it's all desensitization, it's all programming. That's why it's called TV programming, because it's programming you if you're not woke and watching with your eyes open. If you're just going into veg mode and watching these TV shows, you're going to get indoctrinated whether you like it or not. It's the same with music. Music is powerful. The music sets you up for the message. Whether you hear or understand or comprehend the lyrics or not, your subconscious does, and it's sinking in there. And it's finding root, and it's taking hold. That's why people don't want to read the Bible anymore. That's why people don't want to go to church anymore or to synagogue. That's why people don't want anything to do with the Judeo-Christian world values or the Judeo-Christian life, is because they have been desensitized and programmed by social media, by politics, by Hollywood and the entertainment industry. A lot of people don't understand or realize that the vast majority of those that are in politics or in Hollywood are Luciferians, that they are part the satanic propaganda machine. Because Satan has been called the lowercase g, the god of this world. He is the prince and the power of the air. Prince and power of the air, very interesting. What is in the air? Radio waves, television waves. They travel through the air. And that's the industry that he's ruling. I mean, it doesn't take a genius to see this. Don't let these far left progressive liberal nut jobs convince you that they're woke and you're not. Don't let them convince you that you are bigoted or racist or homophobic or that you're behind the times, that you're not with it, that you don't get it, that you don't understand, that you're old-fashioned. If you are holding on to the scripture and to Judeo-Christian values, and then you're getting what I'm saying about Satan using the governments and the social media and the entertainment industry as his propaganda machine, and if you understand that, then you're woke. You're woke. You don't have to be attending a yoga class or, whatever to be woke. And it amazes me the stuff that gets by in the news media. I mean, people are criticizing others for crying fake news, fake news, fake news. But have you ever really sat and listened to what they're saying and research what they're saying? 90% of the time, it's going to be a twist of the truth. It's going to be a half-truth. It's going to be a white lie. It's going to fit their narrative. It's not going to be the total truth. I mean, just Congress and politics and the way the government runs. With them, calling for this investigation or that investigation or calling for this or that or doing this or that, they are bypassing the established rules and protocol of government and Senate and everything to say what they're saying. They're not following the proper governmental protocol. And if you know the way the government runs or took a government class, you could see this and know this and say, hey, wait a minute, that's not right. What they're saying is not true, or what they're saying, hey, they're backwards. That's not the way it's supposed to be, or that's not the. But people are just so, they're just so enthralled in the dramatic political narrative. They're not really questioning the way things are run or the way things go. I mean, there's a lot of people out there, Hollywood elites included, who have said and done things against the office of the presidency, regardless if you like the president or not, and have said and done things against the government that, back at the founding of our country would have been labeled as treason, and they would have been executed publicly by a firing squad or by hanging. And these people are skating and getting by, and they're using freedom of speech to justify their actions. But when a believer stands up and starts criticizing the ungodly sinfulness in this world and in this nation, all of a sudden they want to take your rights of speech away and say that that is hate speech. It's double standards. And what they're promoting out there is not a 1 + 1 = 2 logic. It's like this weird, wacky, upside down, inside out, backwards Common Core math kind of crap. It doesn't make sense. There's a nice little program on skywatchtv.com called 5 in 10, 5 news topics in about 10 minutes. They will expose the truth behind the headlines, and they will show the headlines through a Judeo-Christian worldview. And you will really get to see that there is a lot of fake news. There is a lot of propaganda. There is a lot of manipulation of the populace through politics and through news and through social media and the entertainment industry. And they back everything they say up with the right rules of government and protocol, and with the scriptures as well. So you can't really argue with it. And half of what is out there in the news is just, fluffy cotton candy stories that distracts you. Like sometimes the entertainment stuff that they talk about on the news, like, oh, well, Princess so-and-so is wearing this and Queen Elizabeth didn't like it. Who cares? How the heck is that news? How does that matter and pertain to my daily life? How does that affect my life? Well, J-Lo and so and are going to be doing the Super Bowl halftime. Why is that news? Keep that in the entertainment, ET Tonight or whatever. Keep that in that tabloid stuff. It doesn't belong, in the 6 o'clock news. It has nothing to pertain. It's no importance to my life whatsoever. And it's these, sicky sweet, fluffy news pieces that are distracting us from the real matters that are going on in the world. And also think about the stuff that's not being reported. How Christians are persecuted and killed every single day across the world in communist and atheistic countries, and it's not being reported. And if there is a scandal or something that makes the leftists look bad, they're not going to report it. And the stuff that supposedly makes the right look bad, half of that is embellished or twisted or taken out of context. Do you know how many times recently the major news outlets have had to retract a story or give a quick retraction that really nobody hears because their job has already been done? They've already gave the false narrative, and that's what people are believing. And they talk about this redaction or this correction so quickly it passes by within a few seconds, and they could say, "Oh, well, we did our due diligence," but nobody listens to that. They just remember the very first narrative, which was false, that was put out, and people are believing and continue to believe it even after the retraction or the correction. The news media is not being held to the high journalistic standards it's supposed to. And, people are saying we're crazy for calling it fake news. Yeah, it kind of is. Are you woke? Are you woke yet? Maybe many of you who are listening to me will still think that I'm a nut job or crazy. That's fine. I'm not really too concerned or worried about it because the truth eventually comes out. And it always does. And the Bible talks a lot about deception, how that if it were possible that even the very elect would be deceived. And that, when the anti-Messiah comes, that he's going to deceive many. He's going to come with a good message, with signs and wonders and miracles, bringing world peace, fixing our problems, etc., etc. He's going to look like the second coming of Christ. And how else would he deceive people if he didn't? He's not going to come in horns and a pitchfork and a red suit. Nobody's going to be deceived that way. Hey, are you woke? Are you woke yet? Or are you swallowing the world's narrative and considering yourself woke? Guys, I can go on and on, but I digress. You get the point, you get the gist. Be critical thinkers. Research, and don't trust Snopes because they're part of the leftist propaganda machine. Don't trust them because they're not always telling you the truth. See, Facebook is so worried about you believing the truth that they have to put little things underneath a person's post if they disagree with that post to say, "Oh, well, here's the facts on it." Yeah, I'm going to trust Facebook with facts after they lied to us about our privacy and lied to us about so many things. Yeah, sure. They're leftists. They're liberals. They have an agenda. They're going to only post stuff and back up stuff that fits their narrative. You got to do your own independent research, and you've got to look past things. You've got to be woke. You've got to use your brain and be a critical thinker. You've got to filter every single thing through the Word of God. It's more important nowadays more than ever. Hey guys, thanks so much for listening. Go out there and have a great day. God bless. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. And don't forget to check out and subscribe to our social media accounts on Instagram at AD_International, on Facebook at Abraham's Descendants International, on Twitter at ADINT Ministries, and on Blogger at RaYBaSH's Ramblings. And don't forget to check out and bookmark our website, abrahamsdescendants.com. Shalom. abrahamsdescendants.com, getting back to the first century in a 21st century way.